Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the Leafs Convo podcast for Vanguard Northeast Realty in Scarborough, vanguardne.ca. It is June 28, 2019. School is out. The Leafs are in. I'm Norman James along with Mike Jello. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Michael, long time no talk.
Good morning, Norman. Yes, it has been, and plenty of news in Leafland.
No doubt we're going to get to Leafs converts and OG's questions in the next couple of minutes. But first things first, Mitch Marner and the Leafs have agreed to a deal. Easy.
Yes. Yeah, you wish, and everybody else wishes. The thing is, it's like there's talk that something will get done before July 1. That's the best case scenario. Mm-hmm. I'm of the opinion that this is going to be a long haul. Now, I don't know if it's going to be July, August, if it's going to be before training camp. I mean, it has the potential to be that, because I truly believe, and I've heard a number of the insiders and reporters that I respect espouse this particular opinion. Mm-hmm. They don't think there are going to be offer sheets. They think that this is a lot of leverage. It's a lot of bull crap.
Yeah,
and that at a certain point, if they don't sign an offer sheet early on, that this is going to drag on like the Nylander thing last year. Now, I hope for the Leafs that isn't the case, because we can see that they've almost been paralyzed in a couple instances by not being able to do things because they have to keep their powder dry for Marner and their cap room open for him. So it's not a great situation for Kyle Dubas, and he really, I think, wants to get some business done, but until he gets Marner done, he really can't.
Is Marner worth $12 million per?
No.
So no. If the Leafs don't feel that, most of us don't feel that way, except the Marner camp. Why would any other team feel that way? And why would they throw an offer sheet at the guy for any other reason to stick it to the Maple Leafs? It just doesn't seem like good business.
Yeah, and take it from the other team's perspective as well. Not only would you be making him the second highest, if you're using that as an example, $12 million. Not only would you be making him the second highest paid player in the National Hockey League behind Connor McDavid, you would be giving up 4 first-round picks on top of that. So, the speculation is if there's an impasse, and I don't think this is the case, that it would be similar to the Phil Kessel situation, where a trade would be put together to make that, and then the other team would sign one of these RFAs, whether it be Marner or Rantanen or Braden Point. But again, I don't perceive of any of these RFAs, these big name young players, wanting out so badly. I do think, though, and this is the thing, I know that there's been some reports that over the years, Marner has felt a little disrespected by the Leaf organization, that he didn't get the bonuses on his first contract, and he played on the fourth line, and this and that. I mean, honestly, that is part of the process of being a young player. You're not going to get everything that you want, and now that you've proved that you're a top echelon player, you want every dollar you can get. But the thing is this is a cap league, and you already have 2 players making over $11 million, and there's just a certain amount of room. If they sign him for over $10 million, which I think is going to end up being the case, then you're probably going to see a player or 2 moved out because they simply have to clear space.
How has Mitch Marner been disrespected by the organization? I don't get that at all.
I mean, just as this one example, and it's been cited a few times, and this was Lou Lamoriello when he signed his entry-level contract at the, after the 2015 draft. There's a certain set of bonuses that first-round picks, especially top first-round picks, get. They're referred to as Schedule A, Schedule B. If you get a full slate of bonuses, it's almost $3 million that you can get above and beyond your entry-level contract. He didn't get those full slate of bonuses. He got some of them, but not all of them. And then Austin Matthews a year later got the full slate.
Oh.
So he felt there's some people that in the think that the Marner camp felt slighted by that, but that shouldn't. I mean, that shouldn't be the case in terms of them feeling slighted. Get your money now. I get that, but at a certain point, you have to be reasonable. Both sides have to be reasonable, and I think eventually they'll get there. But right now, everything is in limbo, and I don't think that's a good thing for the Leafs.
Yeah, let's be pissed off at the Maple Leafs because of what a former general manager did to their quote-unquote did to their client to upset and disrespect him. The Marner camp, especially the dad, they walk around like they're 2 feet tall with an axe to grind. Like, getting Marner back is great, but the dad, I mean, they've got to ban him from the building. Seriously, it's Carl Lindros territory times 2 or 3 times 4. And then, you've got media mouthpieces out there chiming the Marner line, and then the agent. This has the potential of getting real bad. Let me ask you, Mike, and OGs, you can chime in on the YouTube community platform, within the comment section, on Twitter, whatever you want to do. Is Mitch Marner a more important player, more of an impactful player, a bigger part of the Maple Leafs picture than William Nylander?
Yes.
I
think he's yeah. I mean, I think him and Matthews and Tavares all have equal importance.
So here's where I'm going with this. How do you think the Nylander impasse and the way he was integrated back into the team late last year affected the Maple Leafs?
Well, I think it ended up being a negative, a negative thing for the Leafs, and what direction I'm going to go. How successful that they were early in the season without Nylander, and how that could be the same thing again. I mean, look at right now. From the reports that we've heard, they have contracts in place with Andreas Janssen and Kasperi Kapanen. Both longer bridge deals in the $3 to $3.4 million range. Those are 20 goal scorers. If they don't take a step back, that's probably what they're going to end up being. If you're signing Marner for 10 and a half, something like that on a long-term deal, you can afford those guys. You can't afford a $7 million William Nylander, even if he goes back to scoring 65 to 70 points. I don't believe you can afford him. He's a luxury, and you have not even addressed your defense at all. And that's why, I keep going back to, if they sign Marner, which I think they will, and if these reports are true about Kapanen and Janssen, there has to be some way that they're going to be able to improve their defense. And I don't think it's going to be through free agency, re-signing Dion Phaneuf for $700,000 or something like that. That could be something that they do because they have little money to work with. But you need somebody you can put into your top 4 and help improve your defense. And right now they don't have that.
If this entire summer ends up with number 3 as the bottom pairing for the next season, I'm going to be so thrilled. Where I was going with that, though, Mike, can you imagine Mitch Marner and his team holding out, or being a major part of this impasse, the catalyst of an issue between them and the Leafs going into October, November? If you thought the Nylander situation didn't end efficiently or productively enough for the Maple Leafs, how is the Marner fiasco going to wrap up and be beneficial to both parties? Well, that's my concern right now, Mike.
Well, the one thing on top of that won't work is the actual numbers of the deal. If you remember, the Nylander deal, the first year was front-loaded because of him going past the beginning of the season. The Leafs, with their cap situation, they won't be able to afford Marner on a front-loaded deal because the first year would be more than whatever his contract amount is. So if he doesn't sign by the beginning of the season, he may not be. They probably can't fit him under the cap for the year. So this has got to get done before October 1st.
We have a few more things to talk about. This is the Leafs Convo podcast for Vanguard Northeast Realty in Scarborough, vanguardne.ca. OGs, converts, hate listeners, thank you so much for being here. We're not podcasting as frequently as we did a few months ago. Life gets in the way. Mike's busy. I'm busy. But rest assured, the Leafs Convo lives on forever. And as things heat up, we will intensify and ramp up what we do in terms of production. And things are going to get bigger and better from here. Just you wait. Ryan Hurst on Twitter, if Marner is traded for a legit top 2 D-man and other assets, you do it. Bracco is going to be a Marner clone this coming year. So if you could get the likes of Klingberg and Heiskanen plus, you do it in a heartbeat.
The only problem is Dallas isn't going to trade Klingberg or Heiskanen plus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Heiskanen is on his entry-level contract, was a 3rd overall pick, and played wonderfully as a 19-year-old. Why would they do that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the thing. The only scenario where you're getting a top 4 defenseman for Marner with a price point that's uncertain is if it's another defenseman whose price point is uncertain. Like I've heard, somebody say, well, Ivan Provorov from Philadelphia. And I'm like, he's in the same boat. He's an RFA. He's looking for a new contract. That's why trading Marner makes no sense unless it's somebody who has a specific, who has length on the contract, who they know how much he makes for how many years. But that is not the first, the second, or the third option when it comes to Marner. It's getting him signed, but it's a question of Darren Ferris and Paul Marner being reasonable and not pushing things to the edge. And right now, we're a few days before July 1st, and it's officially the edge. We're here.
Mm-hmm. Eddie Burla, big fan of the podcast, always contributing. Thanks, Ed. I know it's a dark scenario, but is there any Marner trade the Leafs can actually win? Put 4 firsts on the side, Seth Jones, Dumba, and Zucker for Marner and Zaitsev. I know it's the nuclear option, but do either of you see a trade where the Leafs are better with a right-handed D and no Marner?
No, I really don't. I mean, it takes 2 to tango, and unless there's a situation like, LA trading Drew Doughty, and the thing is that Doughty is 28, going on 29 years old, and you're giving up 7 years there. None of these deals, and it would have to be a defenseman. If Columbus is willing to trade Seth Jones, I mean, that's great because that's the type of defenseman you're looking for. But I don't think they're willing to trade Seth Jones. So I don't think that deal, that dog don't hunt.
That should be your caption, eh? Mike Jello, Hockey Buzz. That dog don't hunt. DJ Olenek, one of our buddies, always in the mix when it comes to Leafs Convo. Are these possible scenarios? Number 1, Golden Knights cap dump equal Colin Miller. He loves Colin Miller for a 2nd plus 4th, and Andreas Borgman from the Maple Leafs. Number 2, Zaitsev for Rasmus Ristolainen. Number 3, Breeze to Grease for a 2nd at the trade deadline, February 25th, or 3rd plus 4th this next week. I think you understand what he's trying to get at here. He's just thinking all over the place, and that's what we like, creativity from the converts.
Well, the problem is they've already traded their 1st-round pick, so if he's trading a 2nd and a 4th, I think it was, for Colin Miller, then the Leafs have no picks until the 3rd round, and I don't think Kyle Dubas wants to do that. So I think they'd like to get Colin Miller. I think Colin Miller would be a good replacement as a right-hand shot defenseman probably on their top 4, but the problem is he's making a little under $4 million, and unless you can unload Zaitsev for a draft pick, I don't think they can afford that. And, the same thing with – first of all, I don't think the Sabres are trading Rasmus Ristolainen for Nikita Zaitsev. Second of all, because they don't trade inside their division, especially to Toronto.
Yeah.
Second of all, he makes more than Zaitsev. And the cap situation right now is tenuous. I do think that Connor Brown is going to end up being traded. I don't like that because I think he's a good player. But if they can get a draft pick for him and alleviate their cap situation with this $2.1 million salary, I think they'll end up doing that. But, they have a number of young forwards who can take his place. And, there's been a lot of speculation about him in Edmonton because he played with McDavid and Erie. I just had this weird feeling he goes to Edmonton, he's going to score 25 to 30 goals.
All of this complexity when it comes to the salary cap and who's coming in, who would go out, how does it all fit into the puzzle? How does this help Kyle Dubas forward the plan, forward the goal of making this team better than last season and bringing it one step closer to where it wants to be, in position to win a Stanley Cup, Mike?
I mean, it doesn't. And that see, the thing is that we pinpointed at least I have over the last few years, and the main problem with this team is on the blue line. And now it's become painfully apparent because of Hainsey and Gardner probably being gone. Gardner's going to end up getting probably close to $7 million a year on a long-term deal from some team, and God bless them. I don't know. It's 50-50. I haven't heard anything about Hainsey, whether he re-signs or not. And when you don't hear anything, that's not good news.
Okay.
So you have to assume, and we know that Dermott's going to probably be out until November. So right now, that's three defensemen from last year which was basically a subpar or average defense that are gone. Where is Kyle Dubas going to replace those guys? Other than, like I said, bargain basement shopping, going out and looking for veteran guys who will come in on a one-year deal, and that's possible. Besides Dion Phaneuf, a guy like Mark Mathot, if he's healthy enough, or somebody out there would take a one-year deal. The only way to improve their defense is by trade, and that's being held up because they don't know how much room they have to work with Marner. So that's being held. I think that's being held up.
Everyone knows how much I respect Mitch Marner as a player. Okay, going right back to his junior hockey days. I remember the 14 Memorial Cup in London. And, the Knights weren't very good. Max Domi was sulking, and, a lot of these guys were thinking, we should be out of here by now. And Mitch Marner is this rookie kid, and he had a mullet, so that was a plus. You knew he was going to be the guy. And then a few years later, he leads the Knights in part to, as part of a unit to a, historical Memorial Cup win in Red Deer. The guy's got it all. Amazing. I love him. And he's one of my favorite players. But you also know that I put the Leafs over Leafs. And if Marner and his camp are going to become a hindrance in the process of making this team better and getting it to a Stanley Cup, I will turn on them. I'm that way. And what I'm seeing right now, what I'm feeling right now is Camp Marner's only concerned about Marner. And, I thought that this player and his crew were bigger than that. I understand there's money in the game, but this guy is going to be paid. He's probably going to be overpaid. But right now where we're at, what's going on is holding back this team's ability to progress forward, Mike. And you've outlined the scenarios. They just don't seem very encouraging for Kyle Dubas at this point. And this team's got to get down to business of trying to get better because everyone else in the East is attempting to get better. And look, you look at the Raptors. They're NBA champions. The Raptors. No Raptor fan base is divided over Fred VanVleet versus Kyle Lowry. The same way Raptors fans or Leafs fans are either in Camp Marner or Camp Nylander. They're champions. So what's going on with this the Leafs, Marner, the fan base? I think it's a big summer for all of us here, and I'd like to see all of us be this big, cohesive, kumbaya unit as we go into the next season. I just don't see how that transpires the way things are laid out for us on June 28th, 2019 at 7 a.m.
Well, I'll give you this example of how this has affected the Leafs so far, and I mentioned it to you before we started recording. On the draft floor on Friday night before the draft started, you saw Kyle Dubas in lengthy discussion with David Poile, the Nashville Predators GM. The speculation was swirling on the draft floor that PK Subban was up for trade. Mm-hmm. It's been reported now after the fact, after Subban was traded to New Jersey, that there were 4 teams in on Subban, one of them being the Leafs, and Elliot Friedman reported that the Leafs were really strong on Subban, but they needed Nashville to retain $3 million of his salary. Now we don't know how much or what they were trading in a Subban deal. I would assume it was probably either Nazem Kadri or William Nylander in the deal, but Nashville waited 24 hours, and then Ray Shero and Poyle made a deal. And according to Shero in an interview with Friedman, said that Poyle called him and said, "I can't wait on this team any longer. Let's make the deal." So it was the Marner situation and the lack of cap space that prevented the Leafs from getting PK Subban, and at least that's my belief. And if that's the case, then that's a missed opportunity, and I don't know where you get a more impactful defenseman on this market in the next few weeks than PK Subban. And it was caused by, I think, in part the Nylander contract, in part the management of the salary cap, and in part because they have to keep their powder dry for Marner in case of an offer sheet that deal couldn't get done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, the Subban near miss or near get will be discussed amongst Leafs fans too. We know the last time you and I even brought up his name, we were hit pretty hard in the comments section, and no problem. That's cool. By fans who were relieved, I'm sure are relieved now that Subban is not coming to Toronto. I get it. People think he's a cancer or a problem in the locker room, or he's just not a team guy. I don't know if this is going back to the Montreal situation, but we know the Leafs need impact on defense, and he surely would have provided that, especially now. I mean, what are the Leafs trying to build toward? Like, are the Leafs wanting to be contenders in 2026? I thought they were contenders now. I thought they wanted to win a Stanley Cup now. Like, I thought, isn't the point now for the Leafs to win the next Stanley Cup and the one after that and the one after that? And what are the Leafs waiting for? Clearly, for the Marner camp to come to their senses, but I don't know if that is going to come to pass anytime soon, Mike. So July 1st, knocking at the door, we are. What are you expecting? A bunch of low character guys, 1-year deal guys to come in and hold some places down until the young cats are ready? Or, is Kyle Dubas into plan B and C right now, thinking about how the Marner situation may hold up what he really wants to do?
Well, I think you're gonna see a bit of the bargain basement. I think you're gonna see if there's veterans out there willing to take 1-year deals, either at forward or on defense, that they'll go that direction. They did it last year with Tyler Ennis. I mean, maybe they can get Ennis re-signed because I think he was an effective depth forward. If they see a center out there that would do that for 1 year, and maybe that's a direction they go. I think they'll focus that on defense, and the names like Phaneuf or Mathot or some of these veteran guys, they're probably going to get more than $1 million, because they're defensemen. But I think the Leafs sort of have to get into that market because they really need to. One name that's been mentioned is Ben Hutton from Vancouver, who was not qualified by the Canucks. There's a connection to him through Lawrence Gilman, the Leafs assistant GM. He drafted him in Vancouver in 2012. So, and there was Elliot Friedman reported yesterday that apparently the Leafs tried to make some sort of deal with Vancouver before he was not qualified. So there is interest there, and they may go there in terms of signing. But I think the one thing that you can make that is, I would say, not 100% certain, but fairly close to being certain, is that Zaitsev will be traded after Monday, because Zaitsev has a $3 million bonus on his contract. And once that's paid out by the Leafs, then his $4.5 million salary is 1.5. And that's basically another team getting Zaitsev for free for the first year. So I think if a deal happens, that it'll happen after 12 p.m. on July 1st.
Mike, you should know Zaitsev is already gone to me.
Well,
real quick before we go, James D in the community platform on the Leafs Convo YouTube channel. Hey guys, what's your professional take on Dubas adding all small skilled players at the draft? And do you think Marner is being guided by the wrong people in life?
Mm. Well, I commented on this on on one of my blogs on Hockey Buzz at the draft. I talked to some people who are draft analysts and people who I respect who have a good take on what the league is, and they said they're drafting the same players, the same type of players. I mean, Nick Robertson, their second round pick, played with SDA, their third round pick from last year, and Peter Burrow. He's a talented kid, speedy, skilled, feisty. He's not a big body. He's never going to be a big body. And they have to draft. They have to have players that can play multiple types of games. They can't have all water bugs. They have to have some size, and that's why a guy like Mason Marchment is probably going to make the team, because this organization is almost bereft of players who can play that type of game. And we saw because of the St. Louis Blues, they could play a skill game, but they could play a physical game, and after a while, teams couldn't deal with their physicality. So I think it's one shortcoming that Dubas has. He likes skill, speed, and hockey IQ, and those are all things that you need. But you also need somebody to be able to push somebody in the corner and knock them off the puck.
I take it Dubas was watching the Stanley Cup Finals more than he was watching his data in terms of what needs to be done to win a Stanley Cup. I trust he's going to make the right decisions going forward. I mean, I'd also like to see a Nick Petan, Jason Blake, and Simon Gamache first line going up against the Ryan O'Reilly St. Louis Blues.
Simone Gamache. I love you pulling out that one.
Oh, God. Yeah. Listen, Mike, safe travels up the highway. Welcome back to Canada. One of these days you'll just stay.
I'd like to. Thanks, Norm.
We would like to thank Vanguard Northeast Realty in Scarborough, title sponsor of the Leafs Convo, demonstrating passion for the industry and a superior level of excellence in selling, leasing, and marketing your property. Vanguard Northeast Realty.